All right. How we doing tonight, everybody? So, we are in a first ever live streamed on Twitch Relatively Thinking episode with your host Cody.
And I'm Sean. Today we got some cool topic for you guys. Before we get into that, we like to get into the not newsworthy news, as we like to call it.
Yep.
Um,
And then today, after we get past our little tidbits in the news for right now, we will go ahead into our main topic, which, as you can see by the title below, is Agartha. And I'm sure some of you watching are aware of what that is, but most of you will not be. Without further ado, we'll go ahead and get into our slideshow.
all
So,
right.
as you can see, we are relatively thinking for those of you new to us. And today, your host, as we've already said, is me, Cody, and my brother, Sean. So, today we're going to start with not newsworthy news. So, on the show, we mostly talk about ancient civilizations, some conspiracy theories, some, out there stuff, and most of it is past. And then we kind of create some theories, and some of it does have an effect with today. But this is how we keep a modern approach to our show and talk about some things that are going on right now, even though some of them could be from the past, like some of our topics today. So, to start with, we're going to go with one of my topics, which is a fragment of Stonehenge is revealed to be 1.6 billion years old,
Mm,
which is very interesting because obviously Stonehenge was originated to be, I'm sorry, was put together. I believe it was like 4,000 years ago was the expected date of inception of when they created it. So to see that some of the rock sedimentary is before the dinosaurs on the rocks that they used that were on the surface, it definitely changes the timeline aspect of when it could have been created or when the rocks could have been forged into or built into the formations that they were put up in. It just adds a whole bunch of questions instead of answering them.
yeah, there was always that like how the hell did they get those stones there? Because those stones, like there's like some certain type of stone. I'm not even sure what they are, but I think it was like well over 1,000 miles they would have had to travel to even come in contact with any of those stones like that they used. So it's already a question on how did they drag these fucking huge ass things, or who dragged these huge ass things hundreds of miles.
Yeah, I believe one of our episodes when we were talking about triangles and such, we kind of elaborated on that a little bit. I forget the exact location, but it was a great deal of mileage of where they actually fished out those stones and shaped them and then traveled. And we obviously like it's all speculation of how they did it and what transpired.
Yeah, I don't know. That one's interesting. 1.6 billion years old. So like that's kind of like it's almost like it's revealing that like whoever put those stones there knew, like, essentially knew kind of the history behind it essentially.
Well, yeah, and I feel like not to get too far ahead of us ourselves, but I feel like there's a little bit of a connection to maybe what we talk about and some of the theories that I have towards the end of the show with that, which is kind of funny how that worked.
Hmm. Oh, yeah.
So we'll go ahead and into your first fact or
Yeah.
topic.
My unlivable heat in 2070. Now that's what I found kind of interesting. So like this was like a one of the largest studies or some shit that was done, um, and it's pretty much saying that in 50 years, we're gonna like some places are gonna have like crazy unlivable heat. Not obviously everywhere, but the only reason why I threw that in there is because it kind of reminded me. We were just talking about the Sahara the other day,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like the Sahara. They said went from lavish forest, all this, to a complete desert that's unlivable in a matter of a century.
Oh, you froze for a second. You get back soon. All right. So while he's going through the process of coming back, so yeah, we were talking about the Sahara, and obviously what he's elaborating to is, oh wait, I think he's back.
Oh
There
yes,
we go. There we
I
go.
glitched out.
Yep.
Yeah, what I was elaborating to is the Sahara, just being like how it took 100 years for it to go from a lavish forest to a complete utter desert. We're kind of dealing with this like if they're saying within 50 years, I mean that sounds pretty believable to me, and it seems like we're gonna be going through our own type of scenario like that, like how California's already having like these crazy wildfires and shit. Like it's just a lot of coincidences connected.
Well, the interesting thing about that, and I think something that a lot of the the scientists don't put into equation with a lot of these situations is the fact that the continental drift had a lot to do with those scenarios. So,
Mm.
so for example,
Yeah,
again, I'll
parts of the
elaborate this in a little later as to maybe how Agartha was covered up. Is during the continental drift. That's how we have that all the mountain ranges between Eurasia is because Asia literally crashed into Europe, which sunk many things, ruined many things, and created mountains. And
mm,
in Everest to this day, when you're walking through Mount Everest, or not walking through, but when you're attempting to hike it, one of the things that the people who have made it to the peak speak about consistently is the fish bones and the fossilized coral reefs that are on top of the mountain, which means that that range was at one point in the bottom of the ocean, but due to the continental drift, completely changed the format of the land. So
mm,
something could have occurred as well in Egypt throughout that process to where they, became closer to the equator or so on, so on and so forth. So many different things that could have happened. It's all speculation. So I feel like I agree that we're getting hotter. Obviously, like we're seeing differences in even just in America, seeing differences in our seasons where they're lasting longer or we're
mm.
getting hotter faster or later. It's just changing altogether. But sometimes I feel like scientists kind of just grab onto things that they hope sound smart, send it out.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, I'd imagine it's just, I mean, that sounds like a fucking reason. A continental drift. I mean, we're essentially just kind of moving to like a warmer, or I guess maybe closer to the sun, essentially.
Yeah,
California, I mean, it's already very, very close. So it's like, is it going down a little bit to get like right on that equator like area? Is it getting
and we
like
don't
closer
even
to the
get
hot
we don't
spots?
even get factual maps and
Mm,
and correlation of where we are compared to where we were 50 years ago because there's so much bullshit that goes into the map making. Like the fact that America is nowhere near as big as they like to depict in the maps over here in the history books.
mm,
South America is bigger than North America by a lot, and we're nowhere near the size of Africa. But if you look at a map, it doesn't look like it's that much of a difference when Africa is
mm,
so much bigger than us. So it's just there's a lot of things that go into that. And again, that actually
perspective.
that topic will slightly go into one of my theories later as well. So that'll be
Hmm.
interesting to put together. So the last one I had was very very interesting in my opinion. So there's a Babylonian stone found with complete um, depictions of trigonometry and perfect angles and geometry and things that we thought were discovered in ancient Greece.
Hmm.
And so it had the Pythagoras theorem. It had all types of things on it that we, you know, obviously we equated Pythagoras and the great minds of the mystery schools of ancient Greece when this was 1,000 years before that. So I feel like I mean, that's again changes our history in a lot of ways the way we know it. And that one's important to me, obviously, as a Mason. So that one touches home because we play a really big homage to Pythagoras in some of our
Mm.
teachings. So to find out that this was going on, 1,000 years before we thought that it was created, and who potentially taught them is again kind of spin off of what we may talk about.
Yeah, I think. Oh, this fucking cat. I think we're pretty close to like a whole reboot on what we believe how old things are. Like the pyramids. I think we're. I mean, it seems like every single day we get more and more like older. Like a lot of the civilizations that we thought were small and weren't as big become huge and large, and we're just like uncovering what seems to be like a cycle throughout periods of time. Like I don't know. I mean, probably talk about it a little bit more in the later stuff. But I can't believe that. I mean, that just fucking throws shit off. Like I don't know.
Well,
Greece gets a lot of fucking and they probably just went right on over, found these Babylonians who taught them this crazy stuff. Or the Babylonians could have been so much more high. I mean, that's probably they could have been so much more highly advanced than we ever thought.
well, we also have to think that we take a lot of our beliefs from the Holy Roman Empire. And that's who created, obviously, Catholicism and Christianity and a lot of the
Look at
Abrahamic
all the
religions to this
history.
day. And that's where a lot of teachings come from. And the Holy Roman Empire stole a lot of their learnings, their gods, their everything from Greece. So it
Hmm.
makes sense that either they would say that they made it or who they took their thought processes from made it.
Hmm.
So things can be
Yeah.
distorted. Obviously, we've talked plenty of times. One, the way we date things is absolutely abhorrent. Like it's so wrong in so many occasions.
Hmm.
Then on top of that, we have so much that we lost in the Library of Alexandria and all the scrolls and all the things that were burnt during the Holy Roman Crusades. So there's a lot of history that is, either hidden or lost for forever that we just don't know that could have explained this a lot better.
Hmm. Yeah, very much so. I mean, that kind of ties into Saint Eves, whatever his name is, with the books.
Folies.
Like how like I mean, if you take that to a bigger standard, what happened with his stuff? We'll get into that. My second, not newsworthy news, the surprising Viking genetic diversity. So, like, I thought this one was rather interesting because it's kind of like opening up, and they compared the Vikings, in like the article that I read about this. They compared the Vikings to essentially like ancient Egyptians, where the diversity was crazy. They were finding, this was also like a crazy large study too. They were finding Vikings that had ties to like Asia and like all like these like Europe, all these. I mean, Europe makes sense, but like all these places, all around, and just kind of adds on to things are getting older. Like every single day, like we figure out that something's bigger than what it was, what we thought it was, and like I don't know.
Well, that's pretty interesting, anyways. Oh, you're muted there, buddy. And we lost you again. Hopefully you can hear me because we can't hear you. Oh well, no, you're back now, but you're still muted.
What they
There we go.
claimed it to be. Oh, I fucking lagged out again.
No, you're muted for whatever reason, but now you're back.
Huh. Well, what was the last thing I said?
Good question. You've only been muted for like 10 seconds.
All right, all right. Well, I was talking about the genetic diversity, but I'm not sure if you remember. You remember how they found like a Viking shipwreck that was like, I mean,
In
yeah,
Canada?
carbon. Yeah, it was like carbon. Oh, wasn't it? But it was like wicked old or something. There was something like really off about it.
Yeah, there was. So the first thing that we have to understand is like the the thought process behind Vikings, the name behind Vikings as like the Norse and Scandinavian culture is wrong in itself. So Viking was a job description. So the Viking was a raider for the Scandinavians. That was their job, was to go
Hmm.
out and basically raid lands and bring back riches and so on
It's
and
like
so
an
forth.
army.
Yeah. So that's what a Viking was. So but they were very very big on finding new lands, finding new treasures, and earls would send out their ships full of different captains who are trying to come up in the world and get better stature, and that would go out with their crews and literally just raid different lands to bring back the better riches to kind of have
Hmm.
the better spoils at the end of the year, so on and so forth. So I'm not surprised of the diversity because they would have traveled anywhere. They were extremely
Hmm.
violent, extremely good at what they did.
Conquerors.
They had no problem going to any land and taking what they wanted. So it only makes sense that they would have just, wouldn't just have hit like Europe and France. They would have hit the Middle East. They would have tried to get to Asia. They would have gotten to the Americas. And again, it's just like that whole, that that adage, I say the Western adage that we're first and we're the best, when there's so many historical proof that we weren't.
Yeah. Hmm. I mean, I didn't even fucking look at. I didn't even know about it. I mean, that was a fucking history lesson in itself, of like Viking itself. I mean, I don't know. I guess they're. I kind of should have known. I mean, the article was talking about the ties in with the Scandinavian. I never really thought. I mean,
Well, it's the way that
hmm.
it's perceived now because it's everything in this day is what's a known word or adage and how do I make money off of it. So like to show Vikings and to show this, and then they represent that people who were, I mean, you had Germans, Scandinavians, Polish, you had many groups of people that would fall underneath that word Viking, and
Hmm.
they never specify where they come from.
I guess it's just more so appealing.
And that's
You
what it
know.
is. It's just a better way to sell it is by
Hmm.
creating a word that eclipses everything, and now everybody's attached to it.
Hmm.
So now that we're done with this slide, I will go ahead and throw J Fowler 920270, who is my mom, and Joe AB68. Thank you guys for the follows. Appreciate it. And on to the next slide. So this section. So also those news to the show. We kind of we find that it creates a better conversation if I do half of the research and Sean does half of the research, and then we kind of are not only presenting our half of the research to you, but also to each other. So it creates more of an interesting dialect because we're not researching it together, and it's not monotonous or boring. We're each learning what the other one's saying, which creates a better dialect. So we're gonna start with Sean's section. This is what he compiled. So I'll go ahead and turn it over to him.
All right. Yeah, a little bit of a glitchy voice going on. But I have um, just some like rather interesting facts. I mean, I bring this up rather frequently in other videos where it's weird how like these religions and all this stuff always tie in. They always think the same way. Like it's just more of a coincidence at this point. So the whole, Agartha is said to be a subterranean world. It's supposed to be, like it goes along with the Hollow Earth theory, where these godlike beings and such, they live in our planet, far deep underneath us. Now, it was said to be disproven in, I think it was like 1974, or it might have been earlier than that. It was definitely earlier than that, but it was said to be disproven. But then there's like all like these recent things where scientists drilling down into the earth, they're finding these pockets where there's like very like large holes or even like these magma pockets, and like it's just really interesting. But um, the points that I wanted to get across was how like these numerous religions, races, they all share the same ideology of the world beneath the surface. Christianity, you find hell. Greek mythology is the underworld where Hades is at. Even in Celtic, I think it's Celtic mythology. That's the Irish,
Celtic,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. So I believe like one of their like Druidism. It's like something big over in Ireland. I really do the backstory on it, but I guess apparently people from these crazy ancient tunnels that like they still, I wouldn't say worship, but they're still connected to the Irish religion today, Celtic religion mythology. These people came out of these tunnels, taught them like these like weird ways to go about things, and then went down underneath the tunnels and were never seen again. Um, and the tunnels, yeah. So most of these believed, all like these crazy tunnels that are 1,000 miles that stretch across the whole entire world, and they're all connected and everything. And that's how like these Agarthians, I guess you could call them, transport and come out, go various places. There wasn't a lot of people that went out to go and reach or go out into search and find like these tunnels or find like anything that was hidden in mythology. But there was a couple people, or at least one that went out and searched and one that was connected to it. This guy Nicholas Warwick, he was, I believe, he was an can't even fucking think of the word. He was an author and he was a another blank when you like dig up pretty much bones and stuff, fossils.
Archaeologist.
I think an architect, archaeologist. He was an archaeologist, so he took like a group of men, went on a 15,000-mile journey in search of this place called Shambhala, which a lot of Tibet Buddhists worship as a real place. They pray to this place. It's considered real and lively to them. It's where their gods are, or where these extraterrestrial being, wherever it may be. But he went on the journey for it, and in his uh, journey journal, it wrote that he ran across like an older sage that took him to a rundown, um, like a rundown Buddhist temple, essentially. In the basement of this temple, there was like a huge cave that was sealed up by like these perfectly covered bricks, and it had like some cool, weird language. And afterwards, after his journey, which cost him five of his men, Nicholas went back and he said that Shambhala, the world Shambhala, was going to reveal itself. I believe when it said Christianity, uh, what is it? The commandments fulfills the commandments that Moses and God wrote. That's what it was. Which I thought this guy, it was rather interesting. I mean, it sounds like a far out pitch when you say it out loud, to be honest. But he meets like a sage out in the middle of like the Himalayas, and all this stuff searching for Shambhala. But I mean, out of anybody, he's probably had the most, I guess, verified story because cost five of his men. Like you can't deny five of the men died.
Yeah, I think his story is pretty compelling too because something in which I will relate to late in a later slide when they got to that outpost essentially, and they were in there and they saw the inscriptions on the wall. The It was through a language in which they never seen before,
Hmm.
and you speak of it a little bit later, and then I have some pictures of it later, and that was a Vatanian, and
Yeah.
that was a big deal because without those pieces of stone that were blocking essentially a tunnel in that language, kind of this story would pretty much be a horror story about the people that he killed on the way to find something he never found. But that was the validity of his trip, was by finding this tunnel with a blocking.
Yeah. Which is still probably to this day undiscovered again or rediscovered. I would say.
Yeah, I'm
Um.
sure. I'm sure. With it being in the Himalayas, I'm sure you really can't use helicopter to get there because of the storms and because of the altitude. So regardless, it's still going to be an arduous trip to get out there. So it's probably why that's where it's placed. In that essence, is because it's probably one of the easiest accessible as far as just removing the stones or the right stones if you know how to read the Britannian. But
Hmm.
it's not exactly the easiest to get to.
Or I wouldn't even say. I mean, it could just be like I don't know. It could just be something different. It could be. I mean, like I mean, I'll talk about it, but like there is like people that come like Buddhists or like people of the Eastern religion at the time who knew of this Britannian alphabet. And I imagine if there was one, there was going to be more. But it could have been a lot of things. Could have. I mean, I don't know. Who knows if we'll ever know about it. My question is though, is like up in the Himalayas. I don't know if you're gonna tie this in later, but like up in the Himalayas, but like you got to think now. Like he went up there. This is where they believe Shambhala is, but that
Hmm.
was also the place that was underwater.
Yes. So Shambhala was eventually. I mean, the story is that there's an island off of Asia that was more advanced. It's kind of like the Atlantean story. So anybody that knows anything about Atlantia, think of that same concept. People were better than humans. They were more intelligent. They were stronger. They had powers. They were more technologically advanced. And then some type of cataclysm hit, whether it be asteroid flood, so on and so forth, and they disappeared into the earth in order to survive. And they created, so that island was supposed to have been Shambhala, and then supposedly the city that they created inside of the earth was also Shambhala. So like essentially Shambhala 2.0.
Huh. That's interesting. I didn't. I mean, I think I do. But that was probably in that documentary, huh?
Oh yeah.
With the island. Yeah, I think I remember seeing like an illustration or something for it. But I mean, that kind of explains. I mean, what with the Britannian alphabet being, the it could be, I mean, you'll explain it later. But this is the exciting part. This guy, Saint Eves, he was a occultist back in like the 1800s. Now, this guy didn't go out searching for anything. He was an author as well as the occultist, but he did some type of book that really got him into his work, and he wanted to just learn foreign language. He thought it'd be a good thing to do, so he tried taking up Sanskrit. Um, he met this dude. I'm not even gonna pronounce his name, but he is a prince, or he said he was a prince. He met this prince guy through General Dumont, whoever that may be. The prince approached the general after hearing that Saint Yves was seeking out to learn about Sanskrit. Not only the prince wasn't alone either. There was some other. They were called Eastern religious initiates. Um, but Saint Yves started doing these lessons with the guy. Started learning Sanskrit. And this is like the crazy part that I still can't like fathom. Like not too much is known about the prince. They think he went under like some other type of name and he was Afghani or he was something different. But his manuscripts from the lessons that they took together were all kept in a library in Paris. So, we didn't know too much about the guy. He probably didn't want to be exposed like that, but he at least kept something, uh, I guess, of proof, or we at least have something of proof of him. Because there was a lot of theories with Saint Eves that it was that guy never existed. He was just some like Saint Eves was, said he meets spirits and stuff like that. But that kind of gives a little bit more, solidity to it. On a lot of these manuscripts too, there was two enigmas revealed, two puzzling things going on. One, he signed every single thing in the Great School of Agartha, where it would be like lesson one, Saint Eves, Sanskrit, like what they did, his name, and then it was always signed for the Great School of Agartha. Now, at the time, Saint Eves never, didn't hear about Noah Agartha. I mean, well, he knew there was speculation and stuff, but he didn't really he didn't know he was in the Great School of Agartha when he was in the Great School of Agartha. Um, and there is a story that he went off and asked the prince guy, and the prince, didn't really give him an answer and said he wasn't ready and all of that. And the other one too is that there was a sacred language on a lot of these manuscripts, which is Britannian. Not only is Britannian supposed to be a sacred language, the way the prince kind of described it, it was to Saint Yves at some point. Uh, it was supposed to be the first language. It was supposed to be the original language of man. It was supposed to be before Mesopotamia. It was supposed to be, probably when Shambhala was still an island before like a natural disaster. Um, let's see, Princeton. Yeah, so it never did state that Saint Eves, after he asked and learned to learn, actually one of the manuscripts. So he did ask to learn um, the Britannian alphabet. Uh, once he asked, the prince, wrote something on the back of one of the manuscripts, and it said, "Oh, you're not ready" or something. So, but at some point down the line, we're pretty sure Saint Eves did learn the alphabet. Um, not sure when, but he compiled a whole lot of shit together. And then, oh, I forgot to add another slide though. Yeah, yes, perfect, right here. Yeah, so he was writing a book too. Now I've jumped around way too much, but he was writing a book while he was taking these Sanskrit lessons with this Prince guy, and the book was called in English. It wasn't French, but Mission of India in Europe. Essentially, these Eastern initiates from India, their mission in Europe. Now Saint Eves was compiling together pretty much everything that he learned with Agartha, with the Prince, the Britannian alphabet, and so on and so forth. Now, it was supposed to be published, but around the time he was being taught, he withdrew, burned all the copies but his personal own. So there was once a copy out there which was passed down, and who knows if it's been altered in some way, shape, or form. But with everything Saint Eves went through in his life, he ended the Eastern Initiates ended up something happened. They must have knew about the book or something. And his idea was that the only way, or wasn't the only way, it was that Agartha, Shambhala, whatever it is, will open up once, or to all mankind, to all Christians, all mankind, like all like this stuff. And people speculate that the prince and the Eastern Initiates didn't really like that, that he was just, holding on to something that he shouldn't be holding on to, like he's not, becoming completely open. So then he burned all the copies. Then the Eastern Initiates just disappeared, and they stopped. They stopped. That was the end of the manuscripts. They stopped teaching them. But over the years, Saint Yves was trying to put together his final work, the Arco. I keep fucking it up. Archaeometer. Archaeometer. Yeah. It is the key to all religions and scientists and science of the antiquity. So it's supposed to be. It's that picture on the right there. It's supposed to be the key to everything. It's a measure. It's something. It has compiled together numerous languages, zodiac signs, and then of course the Vitanian alphabet is also in there. I'm not. I mean, I wouldn't be able to pinpoint it for you, but it's in there, and it took him. I believe it took him well over 20 years for him to even come up. There's a whole entire book. It's called, well, probably in English, the Archaeometer. But yeah, I don't know. The whole life of this guy, Saint Yves, is just like. I mean, people speculate because he said that he was able to contact people uh, as like telepathically, I guess. And that's people said like he used to think of the prince, or they think of the prince as like something like contacting him telepathically and made him, learn all this weird stuff and come up with a strange, weird alphabet. But I don't know. There's pretty if there's manuscripts that got me sold in on it. How you feel about it? Cody, I can't hear you whatsoever.
Oh shit. All right. Can you hear me now?
Were you muted?
I was.
I can hear you
All right.
beautifully.
So, Chrissy, thank you for following and thank you for chatting. So, for my interjection, so one of the reasons why they say Saint Yves was removed from the school was because he could not separate his Western prejudices, and mainly that being of Christian nature. So they were attempting to teach him something new, which was an Eastern philosophy, which had no Abrahamic roots. For those of you who don't know what that is, Abrahamic religions are mostly the what Christian Catholicism and all of those practice based off of obviously God, Noah, Abraham, the sons. So without getting too far into that, so this was a completely new thought process, religion, just complete new doctrine, and he was unable to take his prejudices out of it. So they got to the point to where instead of teaching him further, it was obvious that he would not be able to obtain the knowledge needed to continue to understand. And he
Free
perversed
his
that.
brain.
He perversed that into Shambhala will only be released to the world when India, which is again that Eastern philosophy, converts to Christianity. Again, showing his arrogance instead of just realizing that he was wrong and that he should have been there with an open mind. He showed his arrogance saying that they're wrong. Everybody will have access to it once they realize they're wrong. Um,
Yeah, I remember seeing something too that like the Prince. It was like pretty. Or see, this is why I wanted to find the other two dudes that were with him, like those pictures and stuff, because there was something on them where that's what it was. There was some. I got to do a little bit more research, but there was like a lady that was like a explorer or something, right? And like those two same two initiates that were there with the Prince and with Saint Eves. They told the lady like they're like, oh hey, and they tried passing on some type of knowledge as well. And they said, see if the West is ready for the knowledge, or some, or they told her the West isn't ready for the knowledge for the of the East, or like some crazy shit. Like I don't know. That could have been after the song Eves. I believe that's what it was. I believe the documentary touched on that as well.
Well, so it probably was. So you have to remember that the book that he wrote that was so famous was The Mission of the Jews. And the
Yeah,
reason why they
yeah,
sought
that's
him
what it was.
out was because he wrote a book about essentially another religion, which I know that it still falls under the Abrahamic umbrella, but Catholics and Christians didn't get along or really associate well with the Jews at that time. And this was, circa World Wars, all the World Wars.
Mm,
So this was before even that happened. There was tension. So for a Christian to post write a book, with no prejudice about the Jews and about what their missions are, and to talk about in that book he talks about their magical teachings of the Kabbalah and so on and so forth. And there's
mm,
other things in there, so they're assuming that okay, we have a Westerner who's open to learning other than what he's been taught.
yeah,
So that's why
somebody
they
needs.
that's why they searched out him and seeked him out and utilized him for the teaching. And then it was apparent at some point in time that we were wrong, and he obviously was not very accepting of the fact that he wasn't equipped enough to learn it. So therefore, he spent the next 20 years of his life creating the archaeometer
Mm,
and this graph that we're seeing in front of us, which is actually a beautiful graph. It shows a lot of balance. If you look, which is really hard to see because this picture's somewhat distorted, but along the outsides, it is a 360-degree circle, so it shows the degrees, but it is in a different aspect. Instead of it starting in the way we do it, where everything's 0, 30, 60, 90, it starts at 15. So it's 15, 45, 75, that it goes through the fives tables. So it's slightly
mm,
off tilt a little bit, which is again extremely interesting when you look at it. But it does show
mm,
the astrological signs. It does show the 22 letters of the Battanian, which is interesting because there's 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet, and they believe that there is a
a
lot of
connection.
synchronicity into all of it. Um,
Mm. Yeah, that was actually, I remember seeing that somewhere too. Sanskrit, a lot of languages actually they can tie roots. Like I'm not even sure. I'm not even sure if I don't even think Botanians taken seriously, to be honest, in the scientific world.
no,
Uh,
no, it's not.
no,
Nope.
but I'm pretty sure there's evidence of people finding like a lot of roots from mostly all languages.
Well, in the modern science world, they would look at Vitanian the same way they would look at Enochian. Enochian is um, the alphabet of the angels, and obviously, science has a problem with religion, and religion has a problem with science, to where they don't like to meet anywhere. So
Mm,
therefore, if you have a religious text that they can discredit, they're going to. So and
mm.
back and forth.
I forgot to say this too. I don't know why I did not put this in, but uh, way back in time, I'm not sure. It must have been found on a tablet or something back in Mesopotamia time. There's even stories that they found of man walking through into the tunnel and through the Manchu Mountain and coming to.
You went mute again. Still muted. Still muted. Oh man, that's all right. First episode is
Oh
gonna be
yeah,
audio
yeah.
problems. Now you're back.
All right. Did you hear Mesopotamia?
Yeah, I heard Mesopotamia, and then you started talking about the mountains, and as soon as you said the name of the mountain, it's cut out.
Yeah, Mountain Monshu. I don't even know if that's how you really like pronounce it, but either way, there's stories of man going through and into a tunnel and coming to a subterranean garden, and the tunnels were said to be in Monshu, and I almost want to say that Mount Monshu is in the Himalayas. Well, that wouldn't make any sense because Mesopotamia wouldn't even be close to it.
Why wouldn't it be?
Oh, it's somewhat there, huh? Oh yeah, Afghan, Iraq, that area. I mean, yeah, that's a journey though, isn't it?
I mean, yeah, but there
It's
was,
probably at the end of the mountain chain.
yeah, I mean, in that aspect, but I mean, like, it's a journey to us today. But they traveled the Silk Road in order to get riches, and how far is that?
Yeah, and deadlier.
Oh, you froze again. I think it's the head bobbing. All right, so I'll give it about another 5 or so seconds to see if he
So
comes.
even back then,
There he is. All right.
son of a bitch, dude. This is fucking.
I think it's I'm telling you, it's you moving. When you're moving too much when you're talking, your camera's not being able to pick up both.
That seems realistic. Well, either way, though, Mesopotamia, like that shit, supposed to be the cradle of civilization, like all the way back then, and it's still got the same stories. It ties into the coincidences with religion and races about the tunnels and the Hollow Earth theory. It's
Oh
I don't
yeah.
know. It's one of the earliest aspects of it too, and it's I don't know. It's kind of like the denial is the hard part.
Oh yeah. We're gonna get into all that quite a bit here in a few moments.
Mhm.
So I feel like before I get into a lot of what I want to talk about, I think it's a pretty important thing to discuss the essential hierarchy of Agartha. So, Agartha, a lot of these, so we have to realize that in a lot of esoteric and religious texts, most of these places are sought as a after death experience. So either a different dimension or a different world or not physical in entirety. So every single depiction of Agartha is the exact opposite. Everybody who has searched and who have found information of Agartha believe wholeheartedly that this is a physical place, that it actually exists. Which is why that this was so interesting and why I wanted to talk about this. So let's talk about the rulers of Agartha. So Agarthians were, again, like I quoted earlier, powerful people. They were essentially how we would describe today as a demigod. So like a Hercules or somebody that had, you know, above human strength, above human intellect, and were a lot more advanced than we were. So they were ruled by a king. The king was named Brahma, and Brahma essentially rules the world, not just down there, but supposedly up here as well. And he is in sight of all things that happen out here, whether it's physically. Again, you have to remember that most of these things are vague. So it could be that he has spies. It could be that he actually is all-seeing, and maybe that's the definition of the all-seeing eye. Who knows? That's not for me to speculate. But he's able to see everything in the hour later. He's able to control and help everything with the control and help of an invisible god that does his bidding. So this deity was perceived to be very similar to the Christian God. So it's not a physical entity. It's something that is above our consciousness and our understanding, but is able to essentially do his bidding and, you know, for lack of a better word, under his control. But he also has two helpers, Mahatma and Mahanga. Mahatma is so anybody who knows ancient Greek, you have the three sisters, fate, death, and I don't remember. Sorry, but you have the three sisters. Anybody who's seen Percy Jackson's, you know what I'm talking about, the crazy ones in the taxi. Anyways, so this is kind of the same concept. So Mahatma is his point is to knowing the purpose of all future events, basically seeing the future and stringing it out and letting the king know what that future is of everything and everybody. Mahanga is a ruling causes of those events, making sure that essentially destiny happens the way it's supposed to, making sure that everything goes in a proper order. And while all of this is happening, Brahma's job is to weigh the souls of the people as they're living, see if they're worthy or unworthy, almost like an Anubis aspect. So, and then the picture to the right is Saint-Yves' depiction of Shambhala. That is his basically artist, not his artistry, but his description of it, and an artist created it.
Yeah, and like the core of our Earth is supposed to be like their sun. It's supposed to be the bright, fueling sun.
Yeah, so there's supposed to be an inner sun, and I'll get to that whenever I come to a description of. I have a picture of what Agartha is supposed to look like as a whole within the Earth. So again, like Sean iterated to, Vatanian is supposed to have been the first alphabet. So these people were supposed to have been much more advanced and much more intelligent and much older than our oldest civilizations, Mesopotamia. So therefore, they would have had a lot of teaching of them and a lot of help in guiding them into creating a language and alphabet. So there's a lot of very big similarities to Vatanian and Sanskrit, and amongst other ones. Obviously, as you can see in the graph to the right, or the illustration to the right, all the way to the right is Vatanian letterings, and you can already, just by looking at that, seeing similarities to other letters in other languages around the culture. So you have the Astral alphabet, which a lot of them are very similar. You have the Sefer Yazorah, which I relate into this a little bit, which that is the mystical language of Jewish people. You have the alphabet, you have the
Does that
Hebrew
say
alphabet, our alphabet, and then obviously Roman numerals and so on.
does that say Christian Paris?
So I couldn't find anything on that, to be honest with you. I looked up many derivations of that. I was hoping to find something with that. It kind of looks just kind of like a hodgepodge mixture of everything. And it's very similar to the Sefer Yisrael, which is, again, a Jewish writing. So I don't know what that was. It's almost identical, so I didn't really feel the need to find it because if you look, there's like three differences and disparities between the two.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, so it's almost identical. Okay, so obviously Sanskrit, Hebrew, Enochian, astrological, and even Sefer Yetzirah was all essentially derived from this alphabet. Some theories also have that Vatanian is a big influence for Nordic runes as well. So essentially, they created something that can be carved that is similar in a way to each letter. Now, it would have been great if I could have showed the difference between that, but I don't understand Vatanian. This is all just depictions from other artists. It would be something that I would absolutely love to learn, but that wasn't something I was able to do within a week. So here we are. Now, I'll go back for a second because I'm gonna bring into that one. So my next theory, the way I've kind of gone with this and my thought process behind this is, so we have a supposed Middle Earth, like the Lord of the Rings has an adage to. So
Are you
there's,
on your that?
huh?
Are you on slide 8?
I'm still on the one with the alphabet because I'm kind of like breaking into where I'm going next.
Gotcha.
So with this inner world, um, we have a lot of, where's the proof? Where are we seeing this? So I had a nice thought and a nice theory, and I brought this up to Sean. And anytime you see a picture of the Earth from NASA, because that's obviously the only way we get pictures from outside of the planet, when do you see a picture that shows Antarctica? You don't. You only see pictures that show one of the major continents that you recognize. So I compiled a couple pictures on below. So you generally see the top left. That is the most common depiction of the world. You see North and South America, and to NASA, that's all that matters. So the theory of Agartha is that there's a cap of our atmosphere that's at 200 miles. I wanted to utilize this because let's look at the two, to the top middle and the top right. So those are pictures from satellites that are essentially right at that altitude, around that 200-mile altitude.
Mm.
Okay? Well, yeah. So that would be essentially what that would look like. And you see that you can see the apparent bodies of land underneath very in detail. There's quite a bit of detail of it.
Hey,
So,
compared to the fucking Antarctica one.
well, okay, so look at that Antarctica one. So that is the only picture you will find on Google that is a supposed satellite depiction of Antarctica.
And
It
that
has been
looks
proven to
no.
be fake multiple times. Okay? There is actually no picture of Antarctica from space that is out there. No actual picture. All of it is deep fakes or manipulations. There's no picture out there that is to the public.
So I got something to add on to this with the North Pole. So I don't remember his name. He's some English dude, but he was the first person to ever fly directly over the North Pole,
Admiral Byrd.
Admiral Byrd. And what he's seen was said to be lush forests, lush life, essentially, where there should not be any such thing. Now there's two different theories. The one where it could be, a spot on, the North Pole itself, or without knowing it, Admiral Byrd went down through one of the tunnels that might look like something on that bottom right picture there.
So yes, now the bottom right picture is absolutely a fake. It is not a picture of anything of substance. It is a theory, and that is why it is there. So, the reason why I find it interesting is now, with it being a theory, it is actually, if we look to the top right and the top middle, it looks more realistic than the bottom left, which is what they try to shove down our throats. So I just find that funny in that aspect. So the theory of Agartha, as we get to it, is a hollow earth, okay? And again, disclaimer, no one's saying that we believe this one way or the other. We're just reporting on what we found. So, Agartha, in essence, you have a small entrance from both the North and South Pole. South Pole being Antarctica, that is the depiction of the hole in the bottom right, is that is the entrance. So, the top, again, Admiral, as long as you see it up top, that big line, Admiral Byrd's
Bro,
flight. So, the theory is that Admiral Byrd did not fly over the North Pole, that he flew into Agartha from it.
bro, where did this fucking map come from, bro? You see, where did
Yes.
you find this? This is fucking.
So, this is a very, very interesting map. So, you see the city of Shambhala, and you see major connections through caves. So, you have Mount Epomeo in Italy, you have the Pyramid of Giza, you have the Darrow Caves, which, if anybody doesn't know, the Darrow Caves are in Greece, which I did put it right there, obviously. You have Manaus, Brazil. You have, I'm not even going to attempt to butcher that name, Tultatican tunnels. You have tunnels under the Pyramid of the Moon. So now the last two are Incan and Mayan pyramids. Obviously, they don't look like the pyramids of Giza, but I'm more than positive everybody has seen what these pyramids look like, and they have tunnel sections underneath them that have been found. One of them, the Pyramid of the Moon, was just found recently, like within the past month. And so they found tunnel systems that they have no idea what was for.
Wait, that's that main one, right?
Big one.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah. All right. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, so then you have the Kentucky Mammoth Cave, and as you see, you say height of the atmosphere is 200 miles. There's obviously your crust, your earth, your inner sediment, your pockets of magma, so on and so forth. So this is really interesting, and the reason why I want to say this because I saw a similarity while researching this. Okay, so let's start in the top right with Italy. Okay, so Italy has a direct correlation with Agartha. Okay, so let's remember that. Italy, their ancient belief, Roman gods. Okay, just we don't have to go too far into the deep of that, but just remember Roman gods. Okay, so we also have the Darrow Caves, which is in Greece. Greece, Grecan gods and Roman gods are almost identical, aren't they? Okay,
Mm.
so let's continue further. Pyramids of Giza, Egyptian gods. Didn't they all have similar traits to the Grecan and Roman gods? Different names, different dialects, but they're pretty fucking close, if I do, remember. So if
Yeah.
you go
Same.
deep further, you go to the other side of the country, or the world. Brazilians and or ancient Brazilians had a very similar concept of gods. And it's very interesting that all of these places who have all of these connections to a inner world have the same beliefs and same gods. Now again, these people from Agartha are supposed to have powers, are supposed to have be, above human. It's crazy how they all connect.
Yes. Uh this fucking map is crazy because the more you look at it, like the more intense it gets. But the Pyramid of Giza, I also forgot to bring this up. So I think it's Sudan, over in Sudan. That's uh that's not directly under Egypt, is it?
Sudan? No, it's above it. It's the peninsula, like attaching Africa to Asia.
Is it? No shit. All right, well, it's somewhere. It's somewhere. There is pyramids that have like these crazy, like huge, like very deep, extensive caves, and like these pyramids were researched thoroughly, same as the pyramids of Giza. You know, they found all these hidden chambers, blah 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 blah. These tunnels that they have found underneath like this pyramid all point to the pyramid of Giza. In which case, people believe that the tunnel system. Obviously we know the tunnel system is so much more complex in those pyramids at Giza that we haven't figured out yet. We've only like found like little areas of them, but I would not be like this map is just like perfect just to illustrate it. It's like I would not be surprised if one of the seven wonders of the world is connected to potentially the eighth.
So now let's go a little further. Okay, so let's go. So look at Darrow's caves. Okay, you see where that is?
Yeah.
Look on the other side of that.
What do you mean on the other side? Like the other side of the world?
Like no, inside. Like if you were to go into through the Darrow's caves to Agartha, what do you see?
Was it like an ocean, mountain?
Huge mountain, right?
Oh yeah. Oh shit. I was trying to read it, but yeah, no
I
shit.
wonder if that's Mount Olympus.
Oh, it's quite potential. Yeah, because the Darrow Caves, you said we're in Greece, correct?
Yes, they were.
Oh no, that would fucking. I mean, you brought that idea up with Olympus being underneath, but like this map makes it so much more clear. Like I never really thought of. I thought of Agartha the same as Shambhala. I figured it was gonna be a city.
Yep,
I didn't. You think of Agartha as, or in this one they call it the Agartha. So this came from Europe itself.
yep.
Like a lot of the maps were like that's where they call them Agartha.
And in the middle, you see the central sun, which you
Yeah.
alluded to earlier, which, in again playing devil's advocate, could be the core of the Earth in which scientists think that there is.
Mm.
It would explain why the heat, the excessive heat from our core, is there.
Yeah, hell yeah. Instead of pushing through layers and layers of, iron and all this shit, an open shot to heat up a crust. See, and that shit, that you think about it, like, fuck, bro.
Ah, you froze. We'll give it a second. He's on to something, I swear. Oh, this is a
Like the
long.
tectonic
There we
plates.
go. Now you're back. As soon as you said "fuck, bro," you were gone.
Well, I'm just mind blown, to be honest. Like, this makes, like literally the idea of how the tectonic plates move can be like I don't even know. That can only be used as evidence to this Agartha theory. You know what I'm saying? Like we're just plates on top covering over. And did you hear me? Like it's easier for something to like it's like that central sun probably builds up and has a lot of heat, right? But it's easier to heat like the outside crust. They have to go through thousands of miles. Like I'm not saying it's intentionally not going through that. I'm just saying like it's more like why do we never think of that? Why do we think the core is able to heat us even though it's
From the
compacted
inside. Yeah.
from so.
Well, so I have one for you too. If you didn't freeze out again, you did. I'll wait to iterate my points so that way you are able to hear it. Okay, I can't hear you again.
0.2%, or it was like 2%. No, it's definitely 0.2% the way towards the core of the Earth. And at that point, when they were drilling, it got so hot that the drill itself started to melt. So, like, if you think about it, like, that's a lot of fucking heat coming from something that's like, supposed to be compacted through shit ton of more dirt, shit ton of more iron, metals, and shit like that. Like,
Well, so if you look at it from another aspect, so let's look at another episode that we did on the Tuatha De Danann, which was the Atlanteans. Okay,
mm,
so the question was, why would the Atlanteans go to the ancient Irish and essentially ancient Norse dialects or people and share their secrets with them? Well, if you look at this map, if they were to come from the North Pole, those would be the closest landing spots for them.
oh yeah, no shit. I don't know, man. This is a good one. I gotta say, this is a fucking, you put together much more than I fucking did.
All right, so while we're pondering that, here comes my next theory. So, you have your three depictions of three ancient cities. So you have Asgard, Agartha, and Olympus. These are all
Oh,
these are all essentially cities of gods, demigods, so on and so forth. People that are much more intelligent, much more physically gifted, mentally gifted, so on and so forth. So, and again, I kind of spoke to this earlier. The gods of each Norse, Roman, and Grecan people could be the same as the Agarthan. And if you look at the cities, there's a lot of similarities between the three. Obviously, different artistry, different architecture, but overall same concept between all three of them. Um, the other thing is there has been multiple, and the reason why I bring Asgard into this, for those that are curious, is there has been thought processes and theories that Asgard, that the city in which the Norse worship and their deities are from, is believed to have been in the Himalayan mountains. If Asgard was in the same place as Agartha is also meant to be, I just find that very interesting.
mm. Yeah. See, I'm pretty sure I read there was another one too. Like, there's so many fucking names out there, but like, this is what led me to tie in like the different belief systems and like the different names for the same concept essentially. Now, like Asgard too, that's another fucking crazy one. Like that one was supposed to be. Why does that sound so fucking familiar?
Asgard is like where Thor's from and Odin.
Oh, that makes more sense now.
So it was Louis Jacoliet that
Mm.
came up with the idea and did the research in order to finding where the came up with that where he thought Asgard and Agartha were in the same place, and he was very very intelligent, and he has quite a few books out there if you want to attempt to read on him. But so these are the theories that I necessarily am talking about aren't necessarily from me. Now the gods theory, like that one's just something that I came up with upon my research through a lot of people creating similarities between big religions and that, and then also the map depicted that we just spoke on obviously shows a pretty damning correlation between a lot of ancient civilizations and their gods and where they could have came from.
Yeah, I don't know. This fucking what else you got in there? Roman and Grecian people. All right. Oh, you trying to like guess like which three?
No, yeah, that's what I put it up there for. I'll go back to it. Was yeah,
Mm.
guess which one's which.
Do you know?
Yeah, oh yeah. Do you? Is the
All right.
question.
The right is Olympus.
Okay,
The bottom is Agartha. I know the bottom is Asgard.
correct.
Top one.
Yeah.
Nice, nice, nice. I'm happy I got that. Makes me feel better. Damn, you put together some fucking intense type shit, dude. That map is still blowing me out. Giza, Italy, Darrow Caves. And see, this could like you could even go one step further. I believe it's oh no, it's France with the catacombs, right?
Yep.
See, you could even go out one step further and even say like the catacombs, like one of the
Oh, there's
crazy
many of
big.
places. I left quite a few things out on purpose because I intend on revisiting this at some point in time. Probably not next week, but I intend on revisiting this. There is a very compelling story that I iterated to you about a man that got lost in a cave in Kentucky and came out elsewhere around the world years and years later. So I plan on bringing some different things to this, but we kind of I didn't want to just oversaturate this episode. I wanted some other things
Yeah,
to talk about.
yeah, hell yeah. I think think part two. I mean, I said that because there's just so much. There's so much like I don't know. You just got to go through the traces. I mean, that map right there just kind of discloses a shit ton of possibilities. There's even more shit that I read about with the pyramids of Giza, the Sphinx, even Atlanteans. Oh, I gotta go back. That's something I wanted to say. The Brahma.
Yep.
So there was something I sort of I read it somewhere where the Atlanteans he is responsible for the reason the Atlanteans fell under because do you remember that theory that the Atlanteans became too smart for their own good essentially?
Yeah.
He that was like the theory that like he was like he has the power to create these mass catastrophes and do all this stuff. So like he like wiped out the Atlanteans. They became probably full of greed and some shit. I mean I don't know. No, that'll be for the fucking next
I
one.
mean, it
But
is an interesting theory that ties into it because if they did become greedy, one of the Brahma's gifts slash curses was being able to decipher the soul of everyone living. So if they became too greedy
yeah,
and their soul
yeah,
became,
like
in his thought process, unwarranted, could have been. And the crazy thing is that could have been the story of Noah, just in a different dialect.
hmm. Oh, like he was weighed, put through trial.
No, the flood.
Oh yeah, see that was another thing that I didn't understand either too. Plus with the Himalaya, if that was, I don't know, we already pretty much went over that, but like that still doesn't get me. But so what do you mean by the flood? That's why he was like supposed to wipe everyone out. He was the only good out of that.
No, no, no. So the I'm paraphrasing here, but the story of Noah is that the Canaanites became too unruly and they were going away from God, so God created the flood to essentially reset the earth. But within that, he decided to let Noah and his family live, and Noah would build the ark and add one of each, male and female of each species of animals, so that way they could then, as the floodwaters come down, repopulate the world, so on and so
Now,
forth.
now I'm not sure anything like with the Bible stories and stuff, but I want to say it was one of those Noah's Ark movies where it put Noah in the same like time period as like I believe it's Cain, right? Cain, the
So
brother, like
so Noah was a descendant of Cain and Abel, like
oh okay,
that tree. So the way that he would have been a descendant of Abel, and Cain's descendants, the Canaanites, were essentially the evil branch off in that story. So you had the good people and the bad people, and just how they like to make it. You good
uh,
versus evil, the whole
yeah,
BS.
yeah, yeah, the side situation. All right, I
Yeah,
see what they did.
yeah. And
Oh,
the one you're talking about too, I believe it's Russell Crowe as Noah. Um, yeah, they bring in the Nephilim, which is supposed to be the fallen angels, and yeah.
what a Nephilim. That's a fucking flashback.
But yeah, I mean, I feel fairly decent about this topic. Any other questions or last second? Let me Paul out of this real quick. Bring us back to you. Are frozen again. Oh, now you're back. Also, throwing it in there for anybody's here, if you do have any questions or theories or thought processes, feel free to throw them in the chat. This is intended to be an interactional um, podcast in every sense of the word. So anything you want to throw in there, feel free to disagree with us. That's fine too. Call us jackasses. I don't care. But you can say whatever you want to. It's open for you.
Oh, um, shit. I don't know, man. Follow us, subscribe, all the good stuff. Um, I'm sure Cody's got the Patreon. I'm not even seeing it, so I'm sure you have the Patreon and shit
So
somewhere,
so
right?
yeah, in our obviously we have the Patreon and our donation links below, but you don't feel the need to that you need to, but there are some cool advantages of you know filing that following through with any of the Patreon sections as well as a Discord that is linked to us. Also, check out our YouTube page. We are on Facebook and obviously, as you see below, on Instagram. We mostly post to YouTube. We have a YouTube channel with some videos that are going to look horribly different than this. But there are some old stuff. There's some good stuff in there if you filter through it. But this is definitely going to be the approach from this point forward. Is looks a little bit better, and this will only improve. It's ever evolving. This is relatively thinking 2.0 volume 1. So we'll kind of see how it goes. We appreciate any of you showing up here. If you didn't get to catch any of it or you want to catch it later, this will also be uploaded to YouTube, the whole um, podcast episode. So you can go and visit it at your leisure. Um, Other than that, like I said, like, subscribe, follow, and we will be live next Thursday at the same time. We're going to try to keep the weekly consistency aspect. Um, the show will be something that we're unaware of at this moment. That's the fun of it.
Mm, yes, yes. Common.
Very common. We'll create a structure, but the reason why we don't have one yet is for anybody that goes to our Patreon page, we are attempting to get some of our patrons involved in what they want to hear and our viewers involved in what they want to hear. So we try to utilize that in some of our topics. And we're also pretty good at finding stuff fairly quickly. So it's we're not married to anything, and we like to be diverse. So if you have something that you want, make sure you message one of us, and maybe we can put it in there. If you have any questions or anything else, give us a holler. But other than that, we appreciate you guys for showing up, all of you. I think we had at one point in time 8 people in here, so that was fantastic and really, really enjoyable. And all of you, the 4 of you that have stayed in here the whole time, 4 to 5, kind of cutting out, stayed in here the whole time, we appreciate you greatly. And hopefully we will see you next Thursday. But this has been an episode of Relatively Thinking with your hosts